Okay, it's day 120. This is part two. In the last episode, I talked about this compromise here, and step one, which was, hey, let's get this Russian oligarch over here, and introduced into a 15-year-old. And then two is, hey, let's get him fired up on some cocaine. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and compromise the NATO generals and maybe generals that are at SOCOM and generals that are at the CENTCOM as well. We may as well compromise them over here at this Mar-a-Lago location, because that way we can use their navies to transport our drugs, and we can even use their army quartermasters to distribute it, having nothing to do with with this Nicholas Jacob Cruz. But we certainly are close enough to have the parties over there, and we'll get the pink, and then we'll get the cocaine. We're going to be good for two. But what's step three? And briefly at the end, I introduced, and hopefully we can see a kind of a common theme here between Andrew McCabe and compromise. The fact we're doing it in Florida through the Miami office, the fact we're doing it in Belgium through SHAPE and in France there with all the NATO generals, the fact we're doing it in Washington, D.C., the fact we're doing it with Oleg Deripaska on the boat. Hopefully we see the relationship there. But what's three? If one is pink and two is cocaine, what's three? What's three? Well, I think three is this investment step, where here's our Lee Hennessy. Lee Hennessy dies 7 days before the election. She's married to this expert named Gradante. He's also an expert. She's an expert as well in hedge funds, right? Here they are out at Mar-a-Lago right there. Mar-a-Lago just seems to keep coming up, right? So if you look through here, and here's somebody referring to, hey, Eric Braverman, did he really go to the Russian embassy? Who knows, right? So if you look through here, you can see how she was quite the expert on hedge funds. Well, wouldn't you want to have your partners, your Frank Juster partners, invest in Lockheed and invest in Northrop Grumman Investments when you're down there? Wouldn't you want to do that through some two experts like this to say, hey, what you really need to do is get into this, infrared imaging defense contract over here, or you need to get into that over there, or whatever, mining partnerships or whatever. And basically you mine them until they die. And, there was about 8 Russians that died toward the end of last year. But let me just talk about one of them. Let me just talk about this guy named Artemenko. Now, here was another plan for compromise. They were going to have this back channel peace plan for Ukraine. They were going to put it in a sealed envelope, and this is a week before the compromise attempt on Mike Flynn, right? And this was going to be, hey, we'll have a peace plan, and that way we'll be able to mine all the resources of Ukraine. So let's use this Artemenko guy, and we'll gin this story up, right? And we'll try to get Trump to buy off on it. That was the plan here with the New York Times. So there's Artemenko, I think, right down there. And he's going to meet in New York, and they're going to have this meeting. And this guy is made most of his money in the granary business. You know how that granary business, how profitable that can be. So we're going to, he's obviously knows Putin very well, and we're going to compromise him, right? So I'll just cut to the chase here. He ends up dealing with these 4 people. Here's Artemenko here, the politician from Ukraine. Here's the in-between, the go-between, a guy named Felix Slater. Michael Cohen again showing up. And then, of course, there's Paul Manafort. Now, is Paul Manafort funneling, a Russian/Ukrainian businessman after a businessman, straight to Gulfstream Park and then getting him out to see Jeff Epstein? I don't know. It just is an interesting speculation, who knows? But they all do seem to die at the Hollywood Hotel. Not just Bernie Wisenant, but this guy, these internet sleuths. Here's Snopes saying, hey, these 8 Russians dying, that's just a coincidence. Of course it is. But they all seem to end up at the Trump Hollywood Hotel. I'm not implicating Trump here, as I'm just saying Sergei Millian, I don't know if you remember from a couple of days ago, but he's the guy who did the PP dossier, right? He's the one who said, hey, I brought all these Russians in the oil and gas business, as well as other oligarchs, to the Trump Hollywood Hotel. He's the one who said, I went to meet Trump at the Gulfstream Park and sat in his private box because I was selling a lot of condos to Russian oligarchs at the Trump Hollywood Hotel. And they kind of, that's kind of like the Roach Motel. You check in, but you never check out. And while you're there, we're going to drain you with 1, pink, 2, cocaine, 3, we're going to get you gambling over at Hollywood Park probably, and then 4, Well, 3 is probably just the end of the road, the Roach Motel.